Hey guys, Luke again here from Hands and Heels Racing. So got through Cup Day, today being Wednesday, we're heading to Oaks Day, so halfway through the Flemington Carnival. And I love the week myself, but sometimes depending on if you're working as well and how your bets are travelling through the first couple of days, it can be a long week. One meet's over, there's no time to rest, we sort of just print off the next lot of form and we go from there. So we had a good Derby day, so if you listen to the Melbourne Cup preview and the preview for the races that day, we did quite well on Derby day, so we had a few winners on there. So with Melbourne Cup day, it wasn't as fruitful, particularly with the disappointing Melbourne Cup. Of course, that's the race that's with the biggest spotlight on it for the year. You get a lot of once-a-year punters that step in and watch a preview show. So it was disappointing to be way off the mark with that one, but it is what it is, and it's not easy to pick the winner in the Melbourne Cup. There are 24 horses. They're all good, obviously. They're all vying for the big prize money, and they're all set to peak on the day. And you throw in some international runners that have never ran in Australia before, and you can look at their overseas form as much as you like, but there's no guarantee they're going to show up with that form. There's no guarantee, for the average bloke at home. We don't know whether they're flying in track work, whether they're struggling to acclimatise. So, look, hats off to anybody who found the winner. He was certainly in the mix. I had him probably 5th pick, but I wasn't betting that deep in the race. I mean, in hindsight, I potentially could have covered 5 horses because the favourite was $8. You had Amanda and Marmello, even $9 a couple of days before the race. So you could potentially have backed 5 runners, but I sort of narrowed it down to a couple I wanted to back, and wasn't to be. I have had a good record in the race for a few years. Fiorente, I won heavily on him when he won, and I won heavily on Amanda last year at early odds. So it's not going to happen for me every year. And I guess for the fans and people that follow the page and my tips and my opinions, you just got to understand the nature of this industry. We're not diagnosing an industry as such where we should know the answer. There's a lot of guesswork involved. There's 9 races in a day, and if I can be on the mark with out of 3 out of 9, especially over this Flemington Carnival where you've got 20 horse fields and you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in the sense that you're getting double figure winners and things like that, you're going to end up in front. So, and I think we've done that over the first couple of days. Just, in hindsight for myself, I had too much money involved in the Melbourne Cup. You get caught up with the hype, you get caught up with the the event itself, and you feel like you need to be a hero, and you got to go for the first 4s, the trifectas, you got to go for the quaddie, the Super 6 on the day, and those exotic bets is probably a quick way to the poorhouse sometimes. They're nice when you jag one, but I mean, if that's your number 1 betting strategy, you're probably not going to be backing too many winners. So just recapping a couple of our good results on Tuesday. For those that followed, Swarkadelic, he was my each way player of the day at $17. He placed at $5. He come 3rd. So look, it would have been nice if he won. He loomed into the race, and in hindsight, he wasn't in the best part of the track. So now that I've just mentioned the track once again played quite on pace. Not so much on pace, very rails in run. The rails definitely seemed pretty hot. Similar to Derby Day, it wasn't impossible to make ground out wide, but if you look at the general trend of where winning horses come from, but even horses that finish in the trifecta, they were drawn down in the low barriers. Actually, in the Melbourne Cup, an interesting point was the first 4 were drawn in barriers 2, 3, 4 and 5. So it just shows you they had those soft runs on the rails. They had that split. I think there was a few runners like Hartnell that were in the prime spot, but they just dropped back because they were going so poorly. And there was a few splits that just appeared through for them. And you had other runners like Armand, Wall of Fire, etc. try and come around the field, and it just, no horses did it. I think Nikita was a good run from where he was positioned. But that's just another point to make, is that, not that Swarkadelic once again, he ran well for us at the $5 to place, but he was in the worst part of the track, so it was probably even more creditable, and he definitely could have been a winning chance had he been a bit closer to the fence. So we ended up going with Bandipur and William Thomas. So I did talk about Nature Strip on the preview show, so he was obviously scratched. If you follow our Facebook page, Hands and Heels Racing on Facebook, the tip for the day was for that race was Bandipur each way and William Thomas each way. When we happened to get 2nd and 3rd in the race, which was a great result considering they were both over $3 to place. Then we had Our Crown Mistress, which was probably the best of the day, which held on for a nice tough win on pace, and that Stephen Bastow and Gay Waterhouse combo is absolutely flying at the moment. I was talking to a couple of guys today, and I think the percentage of on turnover would be is over 50%. If you've backed every Waterhouse runner in Melbourne over the last month, you're turning over 50% profit over the last month. So she's absolutely flying. Our Crown Mistress got the job done, and then we sort of went through a lull period, and then sort of hit back in the last race 10. Padrina getting the chocolates as our top selection at $9 at S speed, so it was a great result in the last race as well. So overall, we had enough winners, we had enough good selections on Melbourne Cup Day to make it a profitable day. I ended up down myself because of my investment in the Cup, which was just too large. So we'll move on to Oaks Day now. We're not going to dwell anymore on the Melbourne Cup Day. I hope everyone enjoyed the day, but we'll move on to Oaks Day. So they've moved the rail out 3 metres, which is interesting. The inside 3 has probably been the prime spot to be in the first 2 days of the carnival. So Mick Goody's obviously thought we're going to bring that out a little bit to ensure there's no fast lane on the inside. So hopefully we see an even track, and I'm fully expecting a few more runners to be able to swoop a bit more on Thursday. And another interesting point is the straight races. So actually, if you saw I think it was race 9 on Melbourne Cup Day, the last straight race of the day, the one that Ocean Embers won, knocked me out of the quaddie. They split into 2 divisions, and the outside rail, the first 3 home were on the outside rail. To be fair, I thought so and Fartnar were first and second favourites, so they were probably deserving to be in the finish, but Ocean Embers winning. Would she have won if she was on the inside, with the inside group? I'm not too sure, and my selection, Calander, was stuck on the inside, got on for 4th. But it was interesting to see that the first 3 home were the outside rail, and I'd be expecting, we've got a couple of straight races on Thursday, I'd be expecting a similar thing. I'd be expecting the preference from jockeys will be to get to the outside rail, and depending on field sizes and things like that, we might see them split into 2 divisions. So that's just something to take note of, and once we get to those races, I'll actually point out that I'm giving it a positive tick if a horse is drawn to that outside rail. Obviously they've got to tick other boxes as well, but that's the way I'll be playing that. And obviously I'll watch the first race as well. If the first straight race, they go to the inside, or the inside's fine and the outside's not, you just reevaluate that for the last straight race of the day. So we'll get stuck into the card. Race 1, no bet for me. There's too many runners in the field. I think there's 20 runners, not familiar enough with the form, and there's no real horses in there that I want to follow going forward. So I just looked at the race and I just thought, I'm not really interested in doing the form for it. Nothing there that I really like, and I just thought it was pretty messy. Form lines from different angles. I'm just going to skip it and not have an opinion. Once again, sometimes the trick with this week as well is, I know everyone wants a tip for every race. I touched on this on Melbourne Cup Day, that sometimes there's just not a bet every race. Someone might find a bet in this race and their top tip might win. Me personally, I'm not confident tipping anything, so I just think it's best for me to say, look, I have no idea. Plenty of other races in the day, and we'll just watch for some track pattern, maybe find a horse to follow out of it, but we'll move on to race 2. So once again, another no bet for me. There's form from all over the place. You've got runners in the market, so Von Tunzelman and Mr. Garcia. So Von Tunzelman's a New Zealand horse, and Mr. Garcia is from England. I think they're first up in Australia. So because they're in the market, they're once again unknown. Just a bit like the Melbourne Cup, there's a horse like Rekindling. You can look at its overseas form, but how do we know if that's going to translate over here? So the same thing there. It's pretty hard to line those 2 runners up. And then, I'm not really keen on backing a horse like Suchet, who I don't think probably gets 1800 and is a bit of a cat. Hogmanay hasn't won all preparation as well. Has just been pretty much just going around, running 3rds and 4ths in these pretty average races. Look, Abidion's potentially, if you had to force me into something, I think Abidion has upside in the sense that now 5th up, you could say, he's been in his prep for a while, but Darren Weir, Damien Lane's a good combination, of course, and Darren Weir 5th up is probably a positive. A lot of his horses seem to get better as they get deeper into preparations. Wide gates are concerned, so hopefully they can swoop, but I think, down in the weight, he drops 3 kilos off his last run at the Valley, but I think 1800 and a big track at Flemington is probably the 2 biggest positives for him, because he's out of Ravens Pass, which is the same sire as Big Duke, and we saw Big Duke come 4th in the Melbourne Cup, so obviously a bit of extra ground's probably going to help him, and a bigger track for him to sort of work home from the back. So if you had to force me into something, I'd be looking at Abidion. Probably not going to be betting in the race, so unless I get some positive mounting yard mail on the horse and he gets to a price and I look at the race again, you know, I may have a small play, but not a race I'm really interested in. Odeon scratched, so he won on Tuesday on Cup Day. He scratched from the race. He was the number 1 horse. So we'll go down to race 3. So race 3 is the Greys race, the Sub-Zero Greys race, and I'm quite keen here on Silvera. So, you know, I think Urban Ruler's in the market. Urban Ruler has a chance. He's got decent Flemington form, has won up to 1600, should appreciate 1200 to 1400. But he was well in the market first up. I think he could have had speed $2.40 or $2.20 at, it was Geelong, the benchmark 84. I don't think it was an overly strong race though. You look at some of the horses that were flying at him late. It didn't strike me as a horse that, you know, I watched the race and I thought, okay, this horse will be going up to 1400 in a harder race. But the style he did it in didn't really appeal to me. Silvera, the interesting with Silvera is, so the knock with Silvera is 1700 back to 1400. That's the query. But I think $5 looks pretty strong when you've got the Odeon reference. So he was beaten home. He started favourite, but when Odeon beat him at Caulfield last start. He finished third, he wasn't far away. Odeon come out and won with a leg in the air on Tuesday in a pretty solid race. I think that reference is beautifully here for this Greys race. Silvera's only got 56.5 kilos, well weighted. And whilst the 1400 is a query because of the preparation, I think his best runs have been at 14 to 1600. So potentially you've got a horse at his best distance range at a track he's won at, you know, with the strongest form reference for mine in the race, with the Odeon's form reference. I was thinking he'd probably be priced around 3 to 350, and we're getting $5 here. So I think Silvera mid-gate, as long as he doesn't get too far back, I don't want to see him back, you know, in the bottom 2 or 3 runners. I want to see him about midfield. I'm having a pretty good crack at Silvera there. So he's my top tip. Not really interested in saving in the race. I just think he's a clear standout. If, you know, something beats him, they beat him. So we'll go on to race 4. Alright, so race 4. So you've got 1600 metres, Melbourne Cup Country, Carnival Country Final. So pretty weak race if you ask me. There's not a whole lot I want to back. You got Night's Watch as favourite. You know, I'm not completely sure on the strength of his form. Comes out of a benchmark 78, and you know, barrier 16 will go back in the field top weight. I just think $3 is poison odds. May win. But just with, you know, those things I mentioned, I just think $3 is unders. Emoji's one I could back. Once again, I haven't got a bet on this race. I'm not sure I will bet in it. It's a bit like the Obsidian play in race 2. Definitely not betting race 1. But my angle with Emoji's, I've actually had a small flutter on it this last 2 starts, and it's been terribly unlucky drawing horrible barriers. It's been drawing wide. It's been 3 wide, or even 4 wide, no cover in races, and it's been boxing on well for placings. You know, in probably similar grade, maybe slightly easier grade. But I think a big difference here, barrier 1 and Karen McAvoy goes on. So you get a positive jockey change. You get, you know, I know some people aren't the biggest fan of barrier 1, but I think the way the track's been playing, and I just think barrier 1, sometimes you can get stuck on the rail, you can get boxed in. Of course, there's always that risk, but I think there's always that chance you get that suck run in just behind the speed too, and you get, you know, something kicks or drops back and that gap appears, and you know, the horse has saved conserved energy and is, you know, there's a great chance of running on. So I think, you know, Emoji's due a change of fortune. So he gets the positive jockey change, and I think is flying. I think he's flying. If you don't look through the form, the placings and things like that, you say, oh, well, it hasn't been winning, but you've got to look. If you go back and watch replays of the runs, you can see why it wasn't winning. It's actually done well to stick on for placings. So we'll roll through. I didn't spend a whole heap of time on these. I just looked at horses that I have been following. I'm not really keen on anything else, to be honest. I just not a fan of the race. I don't think much stands out as a horse to follow. So maybe a small play Emoji, but once again, I'll wait to see fluctuations. I'll wait to see some mounting yard mail before I make a final decision on whether I touch both Emoji in race 4 and Obsidian in race 2. And especially race 4 as well, I'll have a bit more of an idea of how the track's playing from the first 2 races. Race 2, I'm probably not going to have much idea. But race 4, obviously, if they're all getting off the fence, Emoji's barrier 1 probably becomes poison. But we'll just have to wait and see. So go to race 5, and very good race. You know, exciting race. A bit disappointing with some scratching, so we've only got a small field now, and it's very tough to split a few of these runners. So I'll go through it. I'll go through them in in individual order, and then I'll just give you sort of the horses I'm looking at backing. I'm not convinced yet. I haven't got a bet in the race. I want to get some mounting yard mail, and I want to see some fluctuations because I'm not that happy with the prices at the moment. But you've got top weight Ullman. So I think Ullman actually is probably not my number one pick in the sense that I'm probably most interested in him. If I get some positive mail Ullman, I'm probably keen to step into him. Why? He's third up now. Third up, Damien Lane, Darren Weir, perfect recipe for success. 1400 metres is his best trip. He's won at Flemington before, so I think Flemington 1400, barrier 5 with Damien Lane, as I said, he just draws for that, just to stalk the speed against him once the last start. And last start winner, so there's no reason why he can't improve again third up. Negatives, I guess the slight negative is that he's top weight, and in a race where it's hard to split them, 2 kilos extra can be potentially a determining factor. Me leading to another runner, who is actually giving Echo Effect 4 kilos, not 2, but an Echo Effect's another runner of interest. And he's had the perfect run last start. He absolutely was just ridden behind a speed where I think it was Echo Effect came around the mid-race and took the leader on, and the leaders were always going to be a bit vulnerable late, and he picked them off. But there's no reason why he can't improve again at third up back to Flemington. So definitely in the mix. Next runner, Supply and Demand. I'm a big fan, and as I touched on, he was my selection. If you listen to my preview show, I think it was in the preview show I selected him. That two weeks ago in Sydney, when he was first up, he was my selection in the race at $11. I think he started, and he ran beautifully. He got backed in as well. I think he SP'd $6. Worked home really well first up with a big weight over 1400. My concern is, so I was very keen to follow him. I made the decision after that run that I want to follow him this prep. But I have had a small bet for him on the Kingston Town and the Railway Stakes. So they've been identified as his targets in Perth. So that's just something to note for you guys as well, that if you are interested, I think last time I checked it was $21 for those events, and I think he's a very good horse. So if that's the targets, and Gay Waterhouse is doing a great job of picking, and Adrian Bott, are doing a great job of picking their horses for their main events. As I touched on before, they're flying. I think it's worth a play if you're a fan of the horse. But my suspicion with this race is he comes down to Melbourne, so I think it's first time Flemington, stays at 1400 metres. Speed map issue, this horse is at its best when it leads, but he's been leading over 2,000 metre races, so I don't think he leads here at 1400. Don't think he has the early toe to lead them, and I don't think they want to lead. So, Gay and Adrian might just be sending this horse around just to get a bit more miles in its legs, so then it might go to the Railway Stakes third up, which is probably ideal for that race. So I think my thinking with Supply and Demand is that they've got the eye on Perth. He's not completely wound up, and the horse could be looking for a bit further at this stage of the preparation. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins, because I think he's got the scope and potential to be the best horse in the race. But I think at a similar price to Ullman, I'm certainly preferring Ullman. So I go down to Grand Rosso, and the thing with Grand Rosso is he was brilliant fresh behind Haydock up the straight. Then he won second up, so he was very forward, I think, early in his preparation. Third up in the Toorak is a little bit disappointing, although it was a harder race than those first two. And then last start he was behind Ullman in fourth. It was a little bit, he wasn't horrible, but he wasn't as good as he was first and second up as well. So my query is whether he's trained off, considering that his last two runs haven't been as good as those first couple. And I just find it hard. I think he's fifth up here, so fifth up I find it hard for him to turn the tables on a horse like Ullman, who's I'm reasonably confident improves going third up into this. So look, I think he won't be that far away. I think he's probably a good place chance, or your first fours if you're playing them. But I don't have him down as a very good winning chance, to be honest. So going down a hell of a street. So he's up to his pet distance. He's run well twice now at 1200 metres with big weights as well. He's lumped 59 kilos in both of them. Now he drops down to 55.5. He gets Brenton Abdallah on board, so there's a couple of big ticks there. Barrier 10 shouldn't be that much of a problem because he'll just roll across and go forward. My query with Hell of a Street is the strength of his form. So, I thought he had every chance last start at Moonee Valley. He was on pace. Sure, he didn't have the rail lead, but he's just outside. He's only one lane off the fence. And I thought he had every chance to get past Suspense, albeit he gave Suspense 5 kilos in weight, I will admit. And Miss Gunpowder I thought was a slightly bigger run than Hell of a Street because Miss Gunpowder crossed the line with him, although she was 3 wide. Missed gunpowder was a little bit disappointing on Tuesday. So, look, I don't think the form's rubbish, and I think he's got obvious claims here. I just think, as favourites, I think that they all deserve to be reasonably even in the market. So the fact that he's shorter than, say, Ullman, I don't necessarily agree. I think they should be more closer to even. So, he's in the mix, but at the price, I'm probably looking, at a horse like Ullman still. I'm going to keep referencing back to him for the time being. So, and Echo Effect. So Echo Effect's probably my second elect in the race, in the sense of looking at Ullman and Echo Effect as my main two. I thought he was huge last start behind Ullman. He was third in that race, but the thing was he had to work mid-race. Oliver, he wouldn't settle, so Oliver sent him around the field mid-race. So he made a mid-race move up outside the pace, so he was outside the, I think it was 3 wide as well, and he did really well to stick on for third. So he comes into this fourth up, you can only imagine him getting a softer run, barrier 4, small field. Surely he doesn't make a mid-race move, he might just be, outside lead or 1 pair back this time round, and he meets Ullman a couple of kilos better off. So there's no knock there. The only query I've got with Echo Effect is, not that the trainer's hopeless Buchanan, but I'm more likely to trust Darren Weir than Kirsten Buchanan. So, that's one angle. And then the other angle is the gear changes. So if you have a look at the gear changes here, so lugging bit first time, Norton bit off first time, synthetic hoof filler first time. Well, that's probably the biggest concern, which probably indicates hoof issues. And Winkers first time. So 4 gear changes for the one race. So that's a query, because how's he going to respond to them? Especially the hoof filler. So that's my issue with Echo Effect. But certainly, just based off last start runs, I'll probably be keenest to back him. But then I had those negatives of preferring Weir as a trainer, and obviously the gear changes as well. And then Foxhall's in the market as well. I think slightly unders Foxhall. I just think the form's a bit inferior to those others I've mentioned. So, couldn't get the job done at Moonee Valley after having every chance last start. I think the horse is okay. I don't think he'll be disgraced, but I certainly think Echo Effect has got Group 1 form, as does Ullman. So as does Ullman. Supply and Demand, I think, is going to be a Group 1 horse. And Hell of a Street, I think, ticks more boxes than Foxhall. Is just going better, drops weight, gets Abdallah, those kind of things. So once again, just recapping race 5, hard to split Ullman, Echo Effect, and then slightly behind those two I've got Supply and Demand, and Hell of a Street as well. I've just, initially I wanted to be on Supply and Demand because I wanted to follow in more preparation. I'll probably kick myself if I'm not on, but I've got to analyse the race for what it is. So I won't make my decision until I see track pattern, fluctuations, and mounting yard mail. So, but we'll be backing probably either Echo Effect or Ullman, and maybe a save. Potentially, Hell of a Street could come into it. I might save depending on the price, and mounting yard mail. If it parades beautifully, obviously it's third up as well, I might throw it in as well. Race 6, absolute stake. So 1,000 metres listed race up the straight. So once again, I touched on what I'm looking for. So based off race 9 on Tuesday, I'm suspecting the outside rail may be the best spot, but we're not going to know until obviously the race happens, which makes the race a bit of a risk, in the sense that we're not 100% certain that, which horse is going to what side, are they going to split. If I knew that they were going to go to the outside rail, and I knew the outside rail was going to be hot, I wouldn't have backed Calander so heavily on Tuesday. So, but we'll see. I'm leaning that way at the moment. If you can find the horse that maps beautifully, you're halfway there, I think. So Ball of Muscle is reasonably short at $2.35, and I guess if you just look through the form, it's quite strong. So you've got Red Zell form, all that form up in Sydney just bodes beautifully for this. The query of Ball of Muscle is it hasn't won since May 2015. That's a long time between drinks, and for a horse that just seems to find one better, I think he's too short. So he's coming down from Sydney to Melbourne. He's performed well up the straight in the past, so that's no knock. But once again, this is a new preparation. You've got the travel factor to add in, and when you're taking $2.30 about a horse, you want pretty much every box ticked. And I think he's ticking a bit of a non-winner box, and I think the travel factor as well. And I think there's another couple of horses in this race that definitely price-wise anyway are more appealing for me anyway. So definitely a winning chance. I can't back him at the price, Badajoz is top selection for me in the race. I think he's absolutely flying at the moment. He's proven Flemington. Drawn barrier 12 with McAvoy on, so gate and jockey tick. So I think he can get to that outside gate, and I think 1,000 metres he's going to be very strong through the line. He's coming off the 9:55 performance last start, where he got back in the field with top weight, flashed home. I just think he drops weight, gets to a straight with open, clear running, and I think he's great each way value. So I've taken $7, $2.40 the place. Can't see how he misses top 3, to be perfectly honest. He is a very consistent horse. So if you actually look through his runs, I'll just count his runs. So his last 10 starts, he's only missed top 3 once, and I think he's going just as he's going better than ever. So quite keen on Badajoz. I've already bet up there. Shaft's interesting because he was second to Badajoz first up this preparation at Caulfield. Also proven at the Flemington Straight. Could be a chance at about $11. I think he's in the mix, but he's a horse who does mix his form, so it's hard to you take him on trust. Thelberg was very well back last start at Moonee Valley at over the 9:55 race as well, the same as Badajoz. No luck at all. It was absolutely slaughter from Williams. There's been a few of those lately from Willow. You probably, if you're on Twitter anyway, you've probably seen the hashtag Willow getting thrown around like there's no tomorrow. But up the straight, there's probably less chance of finding backside, you'd think. Williams does stick, but I think at $19 for a horse that SP'd so short and looked to be full of running last start, could be a blowout chance. The other one that you could entertain as well, I'm telling you, is a big price. $26 I think is a very big price for a horse that's proven up the Flemington Straight. Showed a nice turn of foot last start. I was on in a much weaker race. I think it was only a benchmark 70, but it was the style and the manner of the victory was very impressive. Obviously he has to take another step here, taking on a horse like Badajoz and Ball of Muscle, and so that's interesting. You can see, so you can watch. I'm telling you his last start, and you go, oh, why is he $26 here? He was so impressive, and he flashed home. But it's a benchmark 70. I mean, he's racing a horse, Ball of Muscle, who's got Red Zell form, only beaten a length by Red Zell this preparation, and he carries the exact same weight. So he carries the exact same weight. So it's pretty sickening when you look at it from that angle. But ratings and weights and measures don't necessarily guarantee wins in racing. Otherwise, we'd all probably be millionaires. A couple of the others aren't hopeless. Palazzo Publico isn't hopeless, but mixes her form, hard to catch, but her best can have her in the finish. So just recapping the race, quite keen on Badajoz at the price. I think Thelberg and I'm telling you are very good roughies. I may have each way play on one of those two, depending on Mountain Yard Mail and Track. I think they're both drawn closer to the inside, and Ball of Muscle, I'm not laying him, but I can't back him at $2.35. I think he's a bit short. So go to race 7. So you got 1800 metre race for the 3-year-olds listed race. So I'm going to go through the runners of interest. So Sambro, so I'll go through the boxes he ticks. So he's on pace, tick. Carbine club form, I think is going to be very good for this race. It always measures up, the Carbine club form. The queries now, he's got a few queries. So 4-day backup, how's he respond for those? Only a young horse. He only raced on Saturday. Hugh Bowman on. Well, Hugh Bowman's suspended, so we actually don't know who's on yet. I haven't got the word on who's riding Sambro tomorrow. So there's a jockey question mark, and then I have a big query of the 1800 metres. So, and then the non-winner aspect as well. He's been racing very consistently, Sambro. So his last 4, he's ran second twice and third twice. Based off his last start in the form line, he drops in grade for this, which would mean you probably can find a bet for a lot of people. But I just think for a horse that's won 1 race out of 11 starts, I think, not that he's a cat, I just think he could have a bit of non-winner about him, always finding one too good. And I think over a potentially susceptible 1800 metres, I think there might be something that goes past him close to the finish line again. So, I'm even contemplating whether I leave him out of the quaddie, not because I think he's going to finish out the back, but because there's a decent chance he doesn't win the race, in my opinion. So Black Sail, I think is a good each way chance, $11. I think 1800 metres will suit, being out of Savabeel. Damien Lane, mid-barrier, again, jockey and gate, big ticks. And I think Temple of Bell is decent form. He last start second to Temple of Bell, who is very progressive and was actually quite firm in the Oaks market after that run. So, from what I can see, there's no real negatives. Maybe you've got a class question mark. It's a bit of a rising grade again. But, a lot of these have got to prove they can run 1800. And I think a lot of these have issues or either had long campaigns or have got to measure up as well. So they've all got their own queries here. So I like Black Star, and I've actually already had a bet each way. I think Skyboy is probably my other selection that I might back in the race. If you actually look through his form, only 2.5 lengths behind Chaotic and Lava Lava, which is very good form. Chaotic was heavily backed in the Carbine Club race, and in hindsight potentially probably wins it. And Lava Lava, who was second to Chaotic, has since come out and won the Wakeful, and she goes to the Oaks later in the card as well. So that's pretty strong form for a race of this standard. He's on pace. He's come out and won since that run at Canterbury, and very impressively as well. And I think 1800 metres should be okay. So he's clearly, him and Black Sailor clearly, for me, over the odds. I think Irish Vegas, out of the Carbine Club, I've had to back Sambro or Irish Vega. I prefer Irish Vega just because I think he has more scope. He only tackles this, at his 4th career start, so he definitely has the potential to improve again. Once again, same question as Sambro, 4-day backup and the track pattern. He's drawn barrier 15, and considering he come down the middle of the track on Tuesday, I think if they're swooping, he definitely brings him right into it. If they're really struggling to make up ground, he probably becomes, poison odds at $5. So it just depends on a couple of variables there. I think would have thought so is definitely a wild card as well. So he put up lame last start at 1400 metres. Start before he actually rocketed home and looked visually very impressive. So if you can forgive the lameness and hope that he's back to being fully fit, I think he's a horse that can jump out of the ground, because I think being able to So You Think, the horse has clearly shown some type of ability. He could improve up to 800 metres. So we'll just wait and see. Definitely going in the quaddie, but hard to back off a last start, pulling up lame. So would have thought so. Definitely not dismissing him. And Sweet Victory is in the market, so I'll talk about Sweet Victory, who I'm opposing. 3-year-old filly. I just think Hawkesbury form is probably pen job form for Melbourne. Rising great, and 2 starts ago was every chance behind Red Zephyr, and got rolled. And then Red Zephyr has since been beaten comfortably by Skyboy. So if you actually tie that in, you can get a pretty good read that Skyboy's latest performance is probably 3 lengths better than Sweet Victory's, yet they're similar odds here. So that makes it a bit strange. So putting the pen through Sweet Victory. Right, 2 races left on the card. So we've got the Kennedy Oaks, race 8, and there's not really much to say about Aloysia. She is a potential champion. I'll go that far to say it, and I think she's the best 3-year-old filly I've seen in a long time, and the form just keeps getting better. So she beat Scholes second up, not fit, set on an Oaks campaign. She beat Scholes, who has since come out and won the Group 1 Mile Classic on Saturday against the older mares. She smashed Cliff's Edge. Cliff's Edge beat Main Stage by 5 lengths, and Main Stage has finished just behind the place getters in the Derby. So I think the form lines just get better and better from her, especially from that Mooney Valley Vase wing, which I thought was tremendous. Clear top pick, and it's hard for me to recommend a betting strategy on her because I'm on at $29. I identified that she was heading to the Oaks after her JJ Atkins second. She was only lightly raced. She flashed home in that Queensland race, and the fact that Kieran Maher trained 2 of the last 3 Oaks winners, being Set Square and Jamaica, I thought, okay, he's just going to give this filly the exact same preparation those 2 had. And breeding says that Oaks is a yes, so I thought it was a play at $29, and I'm sitting pretty good. So crossing my fingers and hoping she can get the job done. Would I recommend anybody to back $1.55 now? No, because I just think it's horse racing. I don't think it's that profitable to be backing anything at $1.55 because of the chance of even breaking down or bad luck. Just those 2 alone are probably allowing for a horse to be around $1.80. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to $1.55, and obviously she's got to prove she can run 2,500 too. But I will say, they've all got to prove they can do that too. So it's not like they've got 2,500 metre runs under their belt and they've proven. They've all got to prove it. So based off her breeding and the manner of her last start, I'm reasonably confident she runs it. She's one of the best 2 or 3 runners in the race to run 2,500 metres strongly. Lava Lava won the Wakeful. I will say it was a bit of a PR in that race. A perfect run, cut back to the inside in the better part of the track and split through. It was a good win though, so she's obviously in the mix. But I've got a question mark 2,500 metres and a 4-day backup as well. So we're not going to, they're slightly negative things there. So we'll go down to Bring Me Roses, sorry. Was favourite in the Wakeful. I was on there and she was very disappointing. You know, if I'm rationalising or defending her, she was in the worst part of the track. We saw, you know, as the day progressed, that the inside was the place to be. She was quite wide, but I thought she'd come up under a hold. Thought she looked, you know, loomed up like she was going to do something and was no good. You know, it's been revealed she's had an issue. I haven't actually seen what issue she's had, but you never want to be backing something off a leg issue or anything like that, especially when you've been beaten, you know, such a long way last start. And I don't think she'll run the trip as well. So even though she's out of High Chaparral, you know, there's a few high chaps like Mr. Sneaky Tavachi that are more sprinter milers. I think she could be a 16 to 2,000 metre horse, 1,600 to 2,000 metre horse. But I just think, you know, the way how electric she was over 1,600, I don't know if she's going to run 2,500 out. So Pinot, obviously clear second pick, on pace runner, Waterhouse Basta, all ticks, you know, winning form, won her last two. You know, the question mark is essentially that uses 2,500 metres. She's been leading over 2,000 metres. 500 metres is quite a bit extra. So, you know, maybe she doesn't run 2,500 and she gets picked off the last couple of 100 metres. And I'm also worried she's obviously outclassed by Aloysia as well. So while she's deserves to be second pick, I mean, it's not like she's ticking every single box. She has a couple of little issues there. So I'm not sure I'd be trying to save on Pinot either. Rim Ram, honest customer, a lot of seconds in the form, so I think now her form reads 7 starts, 1 win, 5 seconds in the third. Actually did very well in the Wakeful because it was revealed she was galloped on, but still stuck on for third, which was a great effort. I have a query at 2,500 because she's out of Commands, and Commands is traditionally a sprinting sire, so you know that might pull her up, but we'll wait and see. A lot of horses defy their pedigree. High Am is definitely one I think will stay. If you look at her breathing, High Chaparral out of this New Zealand mare, you know, I think she's going to tick the boxes to run the distance out. And I like the grounding that she's had. She's had 2 runs at 2,000 metres now, and I think it's a great setup heading up to the 2,500 metres, especially when some of these are going. You know, there's a slight query that Aloysia is maybe 1 run short. She went 1,400, 1,600, 2,000, now 2,500. So, you know, High Am's one you can say will be fit, and I think we're on the trip. And probably a decent place chance at $4 or slightly over. So Reliable Dame is the only other runner in the race that I'm potentially interested in. She hit the line well behind Astoria, so she didn't go through the Wakeful or anything like that. She went to the Geelong Cup, not Geelong Cup, the Geelong Classic, sorry, leading into the Derby. And she was only just behind Astoria, taking ground off him late. Astoria has since come out and run third in the Derby, which is very good form back to fillies grade here. And I think being out a Reliable Man, and can't remember the dam, but I remember looking at the breeding going, you know, she's very, very likely to be running the distance out, and I'll have to include her in a quaddie and in my exotics as well. So Reliable Dame definitely has upside to improve again. So once again, tipping for this race, Aloysia on top. I think High Am and Reliable Dame are both over the odds to run a place. And then I have Pinot, Lava, hard to split them for 4th and 5th. Definitely, you know, think they're a decent chance. But I think once I'm looking for the clear class runner is Aloysia. And then I think the genuine stayers for me are going to be High Am and Reliable Dame. And I think that's what you want at this, you know, in the Oaks race when they're spring 3-year-olds, because, you know, they haven't got the seasoning. A lot of them haven't got the seasoning to be strong at the end of the race. Alright, go down to race 9, Kennedy Plate, 1,100 metres for the 3-year-old fillies. Interesting race, number of chances. I've got Debonairely on top. So she's first up, she's unbeaten first up. She's had 2 trials, including beating Global Glamour in the latest one, and looking very good. I think she's set for this. My query is why trial? And I think she's had 6 weeks between the last trial and this race. So my question mark is whether there was a setback, and if there was a setback and she hasn't trialled since, I'd want to be against. But I don't know that. I'm taking it for what it is, and you know, I'm saying she's set for it. You know, Stable and Jockey are a big tip with Waterhouse and Bott and McAvoy on board. You know, Flemington straight has to be some query, but it is going to be for most of these runners. So Blondie sort of had that dream run last start. Mooney Valley rails and run, kicked, held on. You know, but if you actually look through her form, if you take out her 1400 metres and 1600 metre runs this preparation, you know, her sprinting form actually stacks up quite well. So, you know, she's not hopeless. I thought $13 wasn't bad, but I think the market recognises that she PR'd last start and she's not going to get that this race. But in saying that, I still thought $13 was overs based on what we saw. So we've got Split Lip. So she was actually second up. She came second, sorry, over the 1100 metres up the Flemington straight this preparation, which bodes very well. You know, you've got to give a horse a big tick if it's proven up the straight and they're running up the straight. So that's in Split Lip's favour. Also got barrier 15, one of the outside gates, so we'll get to that best part of the track, I think, for the straight races. You know, she's been consistent as well, and I think she's a bit of overs at $16. I've actually had a play each way, so I've already backed Split Lip each way at $16. Jorda, I'm going to oppose because she's been poor in Melbourne. You know, she ran super behind Minari up in Sydney. If she bought that, she'd probably bolt in, but you just can't back off her last couple. Demerara, stablemate of Jorda from Godolphin. So she was favouring the Blondie race at Moonee Valley last start. I thought she had every hope personally. So, you know, she wasn't rails in run, rails leading, but she wasn't far away, and I thought she had every hope. So, you know, whether you want to give it another chance or not is up to you because of the SP price. Started $2 there, so obviously the horse, you know, is well fancied. Your barrier 11 as well, so we'll get to that outside rail. And has Brendan Abdallah. So there's quite a few ticks there. I just thought, you know, she was a little disappointing last start. And you've got her at $4.60 here, and you've got the winner of the race that she lost to, Blondie, at 13. You can talk about biases and things like that, but I just thought there was too big of a gap between Blondie and Demerara's price. So I am excited. So interesting runner because she's been freshened up. And up in Sydney, she was third behind Formality and Champagne Cuddles, including beating Elise. I think it was second up she did that, if I have a look. Yeah, second up. So you've seriously got to respect that form. It's probably the strongest form, not probably, definitely the strongest form in this race. Barrier 17, probably suitable for that outside rail if that's what I'm looking for again. Blake Shin's a positive. You know, the only queries here, I guess, is Flemington first time and how she's responded to the freshen. So she's had, you know, a freshen up, and, you know, whether she's had enough time to, you know, come back in trip, or whether she might be cooked from the, you know, the failures at the further distance at the last couple of, I think it was 1600 metres. Yeah, she raced over 1600 metres. I think it would have been in the flight stakes. That could have cooked her as well. So you might not get the same horse back, but definitely ticks a lot of boxes. If you can get early, I am excited back from this preparation, you've probably got a huge winning chance there. Smart Coupe also has ability. I think she'll improve at 1100 metres and at Flemington. So last start at Moonee Valley, finished off quite well. I think the distance was too short though, so it was 1000 metres. I thought it was slightly short. Nature Strip we didn't get to see on Tuesday, so we didn't get to see whether the form was franked. But, you know, based off what I saw first preparation, and, you know, I thought she resumed competently, I think Smart Coupe's in the mix. So not really interested in anything else in that race. So once again, recapping, I backed Debonairly top pick, and I think Split Lip is probably the biggest overs in the race, so I've played each way there. Neutral on Bondi, I think she's slightly overs, but I'm not really keen to back her because I'm opposing that Moonee Valley leadering form. Happy to lay Jorda, you know, not even though she's a reasonably long price, $11. Look, I'm scared of Demerara, but, you know, based off those odds and the pros and cons I was talking about before, you know, I thought she had every chance last start, and I think, you know, $4.80 is a bit short based off what we saw. And I'm excited. Smart Coupe, I think, can both run good races there. So that's it for race 9, guys, and that's it for the Oaks card. So just recapping my selections through the races. So race 2, slight interest in Abidian. Not sure whether I'll be betting, not confident. Race 3, very keen on Silvera. I think I've taken $5.50, but I think anywhere from $4.50 up is a very generous price. Race 4, not a massive betting race for me. My interest would be Emoji each way, but I'm not confident I might even bet. But if I had to flutter, that's where I'd be going. Race 5, very strong race, and I'm looking forward to the race actually, but haven't worked out who I'm backing. I'm probably tossing up between Allman and Echo Effect as the major two, and potentially the saver on Hell of a Street. I think supply and demand isn't wound up yet, and probably looking for further. I think Gran Rosso potentially trend off, not at his best, and I think Foxhall's form, you can poke holes in it. I don't think his form line's very strong. Race 6, Badajoz is my selection there, $7. I think it was a great each way price. Absolutely flying, loves Flemington straight. Ball of muscle, not laying it, but I just think it was too short for a horse that hasn't won since May 2015. And I think Feldberg, I'm telling you, I might back one of those as a roughie too. So just Badajoz at the moment in that race. Race 7, I've had a smallish play on Black Sally each way. I think she has scope to improve. Skyboy, I haven't backed yet, but I'll probably be backing him as well. Just really love the chaotic lover form. Oaks, so I've got my Aloysia $29 ticket. So actually on the Oaks, I'll touch on it now. So if you're not on Aloysia yet, and you do want to back her and you think she's a good thing, the Sportsbet have a promo, 3 lengths or more, $4, and I think I'll back her, because I think with Aloysia, the query is how well she's going to run the distance out, and I think if she runs it out close to her best, she wins by more than 3 lengths, and you collect your $4 special. Otherwise, she's probably not going to win if she doesn't run the distance out. So that's one way you could play Aloysia. You could do that special there, 3 lengths or more, and then back something maybe smaller each way, or even just a place bet. So the way I'd be looking at either Rim Ram or Reliable Dame to place at the odds. And then the last of the day, Debonairly is my top pick in the race, and my next pick will be Split Lip each way, who is proving up the Flemington straight, which has got to count for a fair bit. So that's it for the Oaks Day, guys. Enjoy the day again. We've got another big day again on Saturday with the Darley Classic and Emirates Stakes. I've actually had a reasonable look already. I'll finish the form off tomorrow, and we'll have another video up for Saturday's Emirates Day to finish off the carnival. So enjoy the day, guys. Speak to you all next time. Cheers.